There are certain mistakes that learners make in the English First Additional Language exam, as well as in their informal and formal assessments, and there are ways in which we can prevent this in the classroom and guide the learners to make sure that they do get the results that they truly deserve. The first common mistake is learners often don't demonstrate a level of understanding, particularly in areas such as comprehension, summary, and then in language usage. So let's have a look and see where the learners struggle. So in comprehension, learners often do not read the question correctly. They often answer at the incorrect cognitive level, and often the learners tend to regurgitate facts, and we want to prevent them from doing this. When summarizing, learners often don't use their own words for the summary, and we need to encourage them to use their own words. We also need to make sure that they understand they shouldn't go over the word limit, and they mustn't use more than one fact per line. When they're summarizing, they must take the facts from the text. They can't then go and use general knowledge and create their own answers and facts. Now, the language poses a different problem. Learners struggle to identify visual clues, and often they are unfamiliar with things like cartoons. Very, very basic language skills are often missing and lacking, and they struggle with literal and figurative meanings. Now, how do we help the learners through this? What can we do to support them? Learners must respond to questions carefully and only the answer that is relevant. Learners must be guided to read between the lines, and we must emphasize to learners that their own words are really important to be able to express themselves. During the term, we should assist the learners to use visual clues to arrive at their answers, and use summaries regularly in class and emphasize the summary writing skills. Expose learners to more visual literacy, and then of course, really useful to provide learners with a list of keywords and explain to them what they mean. So for example, when they're asked to discuss, evaluate, examine, or outline, they actually understand what those words mean. Another common mistake is that learners don't plan their answer, and particularly when they're writing an essay. The learners struggle because they don't take time to plan their essay correctly before they actually write it down. And they often omit introductions and conclusions and leave these out so that at the end it's too late to go back. Learners also struggle with paragraphing, and the overtone and language and purpose of the essay is often not looked over. Let's have a look at an example of this. Learners here are asked to write a story that includes the following words. Suddenly, there was an absolute silence. Now, learners struggle to compose a narrative with a strong storyline. Many learners forget to add the compulsory sentence, and often the stories are quite ordinary and dull. Now, proper planning would help the learners to be able to be a little bit more creative. So we need to guide the learners in this. Now, how can we do this? What strategies can we put in place in the classroom? We can emphasize the importance of planning to answer the question correctly, and also demonstrate to the learners how to structure an effective essay. Demonstrate the use of paragraphs to the learners so they can see the effect of a lack of paragraphs. Demonstrate underlining key aspects of a question, so to make sure that they know that if they underline the key aspects, they will address all the issues that need to be in their answer. And then lastly, emphasize that a detailed plan is way more important than a first rough draft full of mistakes. The next common mistake is your transitional text. Short and long both pose problems for our learners. And what do they struggle with? They struggle with the format, the language, the purpose, and the tone. They struggle with the structure. Their sentences tend to be messy, and inaccurate punctuation poses a problem and influences the flow. And then, of course, learners often have poor understanding of grammar rules. And we need to guide these learners. Ways to guide them: expose them to a variety of multimedia and variety of styles. Learners need to practice writing different formats, and they need to be guided in the structure of their writing. Learners also need to be more familiar with formal writing styles and what is appropriate. This needs to be practiced in class over and over again. Learners need to understand what can be included in informal writing, and they also need to know and understand the grammar rules. Learners need to be guided into a logical sequencing of facts and ideas, and it's important in all these cases to show the learners examples of what happens when these rules aren't applied. And the fourth common mistake tends to be a trend throughout first edition language and home language, and that learners lack understanding of literature. Often learners give irrelevant content in the answer. They tend to put facts provided by guided learning and anything that they can remember from the book. And they fail to answer the actual questions that are being asked of them. And here's how we can help them. The first is emphasize the importance of understanding the facts and not just learning them off by heart. They need to be able to use these facts in the answers to their questions. We need to emphasize the importance of reading the question really carefully. And they need to be taught how to read the question. And this comes through practice every day in class. Learners need to identify the correct information to answer the question and be able to apply it. They also need to demonstrate how to compile a comprehensive plan before writing. So once again, it's planning. And then, of course, in their essay writing, the structure of the essay, how planning can actually help the structure. And then most importantly, learners need to use their own words as much as possible. Just a couple more helpful hints on how to prepare our learners for a literature exam. While reading the text, make sure you discuss the language with the learners so that they don't get lost. Also assist the learners to summarize the text so they fully understand the content. Constantly question the learners on the text to test the understanding, and then expose them to different types of questions throughout the time that you're dealing with the text. Insist that when the learners are answering questions, they use their own words. And then give the learners old exam papers so they can get used to the format and learn how to follow instructions. So these 4 common mistakes, if we use them in our teaching and we guide the learners, it really will improve how they answer the papers and improve the results that they should achieve.